Welcome to the Vacaville City Council District 1 Candidate Forum. I will be your host. My name is Julie Hartford and I'm Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Solano County. Tonight we have invited all the verified candidates from District 1 to be here to present their views for Vacaville's future. Unfortunately, one of our candidates is out of the state and could not get good internet where he is, and so he opted not to join us this evening. Leslie Batson will be our candidate forum moderator this evening, and Sarah Chapman will be our timer. Before we begin, I would like to tell you a little bit about District 1, a little bit about the League of Women Voters of Solano County, and explain the format for the evening and the rules. First, District 1 geographically encompasses the north areas of Vacaville, with most of its area in the 95688 zip code. It includes part of the Orchard Fruitvale area, Vine Street, Browns Valley, and the North Village residential areas. It includes Centennial Park, Horse Creek Soccer Complex, Vacaville High School, the Industrial Park, and Nut Tree Plaza are all in District 1. The League of Women Voters of Solano County does not support nor oppose any political party or candidate. The purpose of candidate forums is to allow voters an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss issues face-to-face, to stimulate public interest in the campaign, and to provide the candidates an opportunity to engage with their constituents. This event is a forum, not a debate. The difference is that in a forum, the candidates will be asked the exact same question. They will not speak to each other, but rather they will speak to you, the audience. We have asked the candidates not to refer to one another, but to focus on what they will bring to the position of City Council member. There will be no follow-up questions. The candidates will be given 3 minutes for their opening statements and 2 minutes to answer the questions. The order in which the candidates will give their opening and closing statements has been decided through a blind drawing, and after their opening statements, they will be given the following questions in an alternating order. Following the questions, the candidates will be given 3 minutes for a closing statement. During this time, they will be asked to give you, the audience, a way to contact them should you have further questions. This candidate forum is being held as a Zoom meeting. Additionally, it is being broadcast live on YouTube and recorded. If you are on YouTube right now, thank you for joining us, and please feel free to put questions for the candidates into the chat box. Questions submitted during the forum will be screened and sorted for appropriateness, relevance, and redundancy. Similar questions may be consolidated. Questions of a personal nature or of an inflammatory nature will be discarded. You should be aware, if you are on YouTube watching this, the candidates cannot see you or your comments. If you have feedback or suggestions for the League of Women Voters of Solano County regarding any of our candidate forums, we encourage you to email us. You can find our email address on our website, along with a lot of other valuable information. The views expressed this evening by the candidates are theirs and not the views of the League of Women Voters. The recording of this forum will be posted on the League of Women Voters of Solano County's YouTube channel. Additionally, there will be links to all our recorded forums on our website. The copyright for this forum belongs to the League of Women Voters of Solano County, which reserves all rights to the recording of this forum. No portion of the contents of this forum may be reproduced or otherwise used without prior written consent from the League of Women Voters. No portion of this recording may be used to promote one candidate or to oppose another in any way. Additionally, no portion of this forum may be used to imply that the League of Women Voters endorses any candidate. If the recording of this forum is to be used, it must be used in its entirety. Now let's get started. Tonight, Sarah Chapman will be our timer. Sarah is a League member, and we are very glad to have her here this evening. We have given her no formal training and very little notice. Additionally, we have Devonna Finley, the league's newest member, as chat manager on our YouTube live streaming event. She generously volunteered to help us this evening, and we're very glad to have her. Our technical team is League President Niles Metters, Board Member Craig Patterson, and my husband, Alan Hartford, who had very little choice. Now I would like to introduce our moderator, Leslie Batson. League of Women Voters of Solano County has a policy that moderators should not be constituents of the candidates who are speaking at a forum. Leslie is a Fairfield resident and has been gracious enough to be our moderator this evening. Also, with no formal training and very little notice, the League is pleased to have her here tonight as our moderator. And with that, I will turn the time over to Leslie.
Okay, I want to welcome the three candidates tonight. And there, as you heard, was an earlier drawing to determine the order in which you will give your opening statements. And just as a little historical color here, the person who did the drawing was a 7-year-old young lady who is the grandchild of a League member and who hopefully herself will become a League of Women Voters member when she's an adult. So the drawing results was that the opening statements will occur in this order. Wendy Breckman will open with her statement, followed by Sean McMahon and then Roy Stockton. The closing statements will be in the reverse order, and the individual questions that I will be giving you will be in a rotated order. So everybody will have an opportunity to be first, middle, and last. All right, I'm going to begin with Wendy Brecken, who will give her opening statement, and you have 3 minutes. You need to unmute.
I'm Wendy Brecken, running for District 1. The thing about districts is they're new, and there's a total of 4 candidates running in District 1. And it's a good opportunity for all the different neighborhoods of Vacaville to have their voices heard. Basically, I'm the only woman running, and I'm a mother, grandma, wife, daughter, and just like so many others in Vacaville, I care for people in my family and for my parents and enjoy my grandkids and enjoy helping out. But I decided that it's time to stand up and represent District 1 so we can spotlight residents and local businesses, their needs, rather than kind of kicking the can down the road, which is what's been happening. It's time for a change. I've been advocating on behalf of residents at council meetings for years and helped start 2 organizations for that purpose, both the Vacaville Community Organization and Vacavillians for Fiscal Health. We need a more responsive, open, and transparent government that makes decisions with the community and for the purposes of having Vacaville thrive. You have real choices in this election. You can sort of stay with the status quo of prioritizing special interests that are increasing our structural debt and the taxes you pay, and eventually decreasing our services because of lack of funding. Or we can turn this ship around and put the community needs solidly on the table with community-driven ideas, have the city work for and care for the community, rather than imposing spending priorities and projects on us. I have experience and background. I have a Bachelor's of Science from UCLA and a Juris Doctor law degree from McGeorge School of Law. I practiced law for the state of California for 20 years. I worked on contracts, grants, litigation for personnel actions, as well as licensing cases. I helped make complex policy decisions and recommendations to various boards. I've spoken with voters on the phone and door to door, and Vacaville is a great place to live. I think we all agree, and people in general love it here, but I'm hearing concerns about traffic due to new development, water pressure issues in the North Orchard area, schools being impacted by new development, and those people in the newer areas are feeling like they're being taxed out of their homes, some of them. Promises to voters have not been kept, and taxes are being used increasingly for personnel costs rather than the project's promise for voters.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Sean McMahon.
Thank you very much. My name is Sean McMahon, and I am running for Vacaville City Council, District 1. I'm a U.S. Air Force retired veteran. I've served our country for 27 years, from 1989 to 2016. I served overseas in several different conflicts. I had the honor of being an aircrew member on the KC-10. I have safely logged over 6,000 flying hours and 150 combat sorties overseas in different campaigns throughout the world. In 2017, shortly after I retired from the Air Force, I was then appointed by Mayor Lynn Augustine to our Vacaville Parks and Recreation Commission, where I've served for nearly 4 years now. Parks are a passion of mine in Vacaville, just as youth sports are. I currently serve as the chair for that commission. Currently, I work as a Department of Defense contractor. I serve as a KC-10 flight simulator instructor, so I'm very well connected with Travis Air Force Base and the people that work out at Travis Air Force Base. I'm a husband and a proud father of twin girls that just started at Vaca High School via Zoom. I'm a friend, I'm a neighbor, I'm a youth soccer coach. I'm a community leader. We have been very involved in our community over the past several years. My family and I strongly believe that community service absolutely builds a stronger community. We do a lot of community service, and we're very proud of that as a family. My wife is a paraeducator for Vacaville Unified School District. We are very involved with our school district via her position with schools, as well as our girls' position being a Vacaville Unified School District student. We do a lot of volunteer work through the music departments there, as well as my wife has been extremely involved with the PTO portion of that. I have a passion for Vacaville and its citizens here. I have dedicated my life to community service to our nation and now our city. I strongly feel in order to be good at what you do, you have to be passionate about it. I am passionate about Vacaville and its citizens, and I have the record to prove that. I have served this town for the last 4 years as a commissioner. I have coached youth sports in this town for the last 10 years. I have a passion for this town and the people of this town. And I would like to go to the next level and serve as your voice for District 1. Thank you very much.
And before we move on to Mr. Stockton, I'm going to ask whoever who is behind the scenes who is not muted to please mute themselves. There is some disturbing background sound. I want the speakers to be heard clearly. Okay, Roy Stockton, it's your chance. You have 3 minutes to give your opening statement.
Well, thank you, Ms. Basson. My name is Roy Stockton. I'm running for Vacaville City Council. It's an honor to be here today. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to speak to our constituents and future constituents before this really, really important election. I think a lot of the comments that were said before are correct. One specifically being that there are some significant differences between the candidates that are running. And I appreciate the opportunity for us to explain how we're all a little bit different. So I grew up in Vacaville. I went to Vacaville schools. I played Vacaville sports, and my first job was with the city rec department. We put on sports camps, and we did after-school tutoring over at the Markham Center, and it was a wonderful experience for me. Growing up in Vacaville, it was always a close-knit town, but I really got my interest in serving from the American Legion. Nominated me and chose me as a Boys State delegate between my junior and senior year, where we got to learn more about our democracy and the importance of service. I come today to try to serve our community because I come from 2 very strong women. My grandmother came from Louisiana, and raised 5 children all by herself, came to California for more opportunity. And my mother is a domestic violence survivor that loved me more and gave me the opportunities to succeed. And so with that, I've always had a desire to serve. So when I went to college, I majored in political science, Beloit College, came home. I did some paralegal work with Lockheed Martin on a US Department of Justice contract. And then I got started in law enforcement. And I started in law enforcement because I wanted to be the type of person that my family or somebody that was helping my mother would be like when she needed help. And so I've been blessed to have 15 years of law enforcement experience, 10 with the Fairfield Police Department, where I was fortunate enough to work with at-risk youth, to work with crisis negotiations, to be an environmental crimes detective with the county, where I'm now a sergeant. I'm running for Vacaville City Council because I love Vacaville and I want to protect the quality of life that Vacaville citizens deserve. I'm an optimist. I see tremendous opportunity. We have been faced with some incredible challenges this year. Everything from COVID-19's effect on our businesses and our kids to the recent fires where our public safety officers and heroes really stepped up, as well as the community, to come together. I want to nurture that VACA strong spirit by bringing people together so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay. And I think I know where the noise is coming from. If our timekeeper could please mute.
Sure.
Thank you. Problem solved. Okay, we're going to move on to the individual questions that have I helped write, and they've been vetted by the league. And the order of answering the first question will be Sean McMahon, followed by Roy Stockton, and then Wendy Brecken. I'd like you to share your top 2 or 3 priorities if elected to represent District 1 on the Vacaville City Council, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Leslie. Top 2 priorities right now. I absolutely, and this isn't just limited to District 1 in Vacaville. It's all of Vacaville, and that's a loss of revenue due to COVID. We have some difficult decisions to make here in the very near future. Whoever has the opportunity to sit on that council is going to be faced with the reality of millions of dollars being lost in revenue. Those are going to be tough decisions, and they're not going to be popular decisions to make. We are going to have to perhaps restructure some departments, as well as, as a last resort, we may have to cut positions or cut programs. I don't want to do that, but if the money's not there, we have to consider all options. One of the areas that I would consider extremely important for District 1. District 1, if you look at the boundaries of District 1, we back up to the beautiful hills of Vacaville. Several months out of the year, they're nice and green, and a majority of the months, they are golden brown. As Mr. Stockton just indicated, we went through one of the worst wildfires in California history just recently. I would strongly encourage a fire abatement program. I know our fire department currently does an outstanding job there, and that was proven during this last fire. I would encourage that whole boundary to be a fire abatement program. We have to protect the town as well as this district. That goes all the way out to Orchard, all the way to North Village. We have also recently had some fires that were arson fires out on the 505. Fire protection is huge. We were very fortunate in the incorporated areas of Vacaville, not so much on the outside, but we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Roy Stockton will have 2 minutes to give his 2 or 3 top priorities if elected.
Thank you. So, like I said in my introduction, I believe that protecting the quality of life of Vacaville is the #1 priority. We have a tremendous amount of divisiveness in our country, our state, our county, and even here locally. I believe that public safety is the foundation of the quality of life here, but we need public trust. We need community buy-in. The times will tell as we get through some of these challenges that we're faced with: COVID-19, wildfires, reviving the local economy, whether or not we're going to be Vacaville strong. We have been my whole life, and I believe in this community to come together and be able to get through these difficult times. But they're going to need some help. So, as somebody with a platform on the city council, I think we really need to work hard for our businesses. We need to keep our businesses from dying because they help keep us together. And so we need to work with the state. We need to work with the county to do whatever is necessary to keep them open, because we've put people in an impossible position where they're choosing between not working and being unable to feed their families and meet their financial obligations, or breaking the law. And we should never be in that position. I also think that we need to fulfill our commitments, and we need to do that with Measure M. We need to make sure that we take care of the commitments we've made to the public to improve some of the amenities in town. I think that's a priority. But I do want to stress that part of Measure M was also to invest in opening up the last fire station, which I think was absolutely crucial as it relates to the recent fires that threatened our city. But we still do need to fulfill the obligation that we have regarding the parks and some of the upgrades. I'd like to see healthy growth. I'd like to see us bring in some of the biotechnology and also build some of the affordable housing for that labor force to get here. So those would be priorities that I would have here to make sure that Vacaville is safe and enjoyable for everyone.
Okay, thank you. And Wendy Brecken has the opportunity to answer the same question, stating your top 2 or 3 priorities if elected.
Yes, we are in hard times right now, and therefore it's critical to get a handle on our budget. And that means increasing revenue, which there's good ideas for doing that now, Measure V, as well as the biotech hub, and decreasing costs, which the city hasn't done a great job of looking at because there's so many things that can be done. Right now, personnel compensation has been increasing dramatically. Our salaries and benefits have increased 21% in the last few years, but the number of employees has only increased 8%. We're paying more money for the same services. The structural debt, well, as of 2018 was 327 million, and it includes the OPEB liability, which is the retiree debt, as well as the pension liability. We can do more in both of those areas. If we could just reduce some of the debt some more. I know the city has done some things, but we can do more to reduce the debt. The other issue that is a priority is, and if I could just say that with the budget, all the other priorities that you want to do to make the community better, like the parks and the sports fields and helping businesses, all that is dependent on us having a healthy budget. And we're 10% lowest out of all the California cities for having a poor financial health because of our debt. So the debt is something we need to work on. The other major priority is open and transparent government. And most residents are not informed of all the issues going on because you really have to watch closely. You have to be kind of a geek and watch all the city council meetings and get involved. So we need a better way to reach out to everybody and let them know what the issues are and let them know how their voices can be heard. Let them help set the priorities.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to the second question, and the order of answer will be Roy Stockton, Wendy Brecken, and Sean McMahon. Some of you have already addressed this issue, but it's worth exploring further. The city of Vacaville and neighboring communities recently experienced a fire emergency. From your perspective, describe the aspects of the response that worked well in Vacaville and areas in need of improvement for dealing with future fire threats. And we will begin with Roy Stockton.
Okay. Well, I was actually working the night of the LNU fire. I came in, and what I experienced was nothing short of heroic. There was a recent article that Richard Rico wrote where the fire department was asked if there was anybody that needed a break to go home and rest. And the firemen said, "This is our home." Essentially, I'm paraphrasing, that this is our home and we're not leaving until this fire's out. And that comes to that VACA strong mentality that I'm passionate about. I think that we would not have had the same ability to defeat that fire from coming into city limits had it not been for the voters approving Measure M and getting us those 5 additional firefighters in that station. So that was absolutely insurmountable odds. And what I saw the Vacaville Fire Department do to keep that from burning down the Cheyenne development and some of the Browns Valley homes was absolutely incredible. The Vacaville Police Department did a phenomenal job with evacuations and getting people out that needed to be out, whose homes were threatened. Some of the things that I learned from this is, and I think everybody fought their hearts out, but that's why it's so important that we don't have our own volunteer fire department, because the response times were immediate for us. So I think that we need to make sure we keep what we have first and foremost. The next thing is, I think we need citizens to log into some of the notification programs that provide information about these fires, where they are, who needs to evacuate, when they need to evacuate. Traffic was certainly a concern, I know, on the south part of town over by the Air Force Base specifically. And so I think we need to look at evacuation routes, learn from what happened with how fast this fire can move and grow, how dynamic it is. But I think that we need to make sure that we maintain a qualified police and fire department to be able to handle these things when they occur.
Okay, thank you. And Wendy Brecken, answer the same question of what you experienced, what you observed, and how you think that maybe things could be improved for the next possible fire threat.
Okay, any sound you hear is my dog drinking water. So I experienced evacuation, and but I understand that the heroics were there, as Roy just said. We have amazing first responders that were going towards the flames, warning people to get out, and heroically fought the fire. And I think, you know, at that point in time we had, when it was first hit, the resources were so stretched out all over the place because the fire was so huge. We didn't have any air support or anything. So given the lack of support, we did amazing. How we could improve is evacuation routes. I know people in the South Town were like trying to get out of town and it took them like 3 hours. And I've also heard from some neighbors that in the north, that on Vaca Valley, or I think it was Vaca Valley, it was kind of crowded and hard to get out. And one person was saying we can maybe use Allison to get out if we open the gate there in that field on Centennial Park. Not sure, but we can look at evacuation routes. As far as information, yeah, it was hard to get information. You really had to know where to go. I feel like we should have email blasts or something, some Facebook page for emergency that everybody can just go to and immediately know, okay, here's evacuated areas. Oh, we've just, you know, that's just been lifted. We can go back. All those questions, you know, where do we go for the, you know, evacuation, you know, if you don't have family, where do you go? And those things were just confusion. So that could be improved upon. But given, like I say, given the crisis we were in, Vacaville did great. Also, the information officer, I guess you call the public information officer, because I guess we're lacking one, the fire chief was the public information officer. So that was a real strain. We need to have 2 different people. Thank you.
All right. Our Sean McMahon will respond to the same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, ma'am. Thank you. I've got it. Thank you. I don't know that I'm going to say too much more different than what the other two candidates just stated. I would like to say thank you to all of our public safety personnel out there. This was unfortunately a perfect storm for a fire. As we all went to bed the evening prior, that fire was several miles away. Early that morning, we woke up and we woke up to a different town and a different event. A lot of uncertainty. We didn't know whether to pack up, to leave, to stay. So with all of that said, I think it's imperative that we look at an after action report from this. This was a perfect storm that, we always thought that with these hills and with the wind that we get here in Vacaville, this was possible. Well, we just faced this about a month ago. We have to learn from this and have to be better prepared in the future. I agree, improved communications. We have to make sure that our citizens have a proper way and a known place to go. A lot of us relying upon social media, which isn't always the most reliable information. A common place, a city site, I would strongly encourage Channel 26, our Vacaville station. We do need a public information officer. There isn't one currently, but we do need to have an alternate. We should have been able to tune into that station for the most current information. With limited resources, I will say I'm extremely proud of the city and the firefighters and the police officers, what they did. They saved this city that day and during that time. And they did an outstanding job. Luckily, Mother Nature cooperated a bit that afternoon. The winds were forecasted to be not in our favor. They never multiplied. Thank you to everyone that helped save this city of Vacaville. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to kind of a pressing social issue. And the order of answering will begin with Roy Stockton, followed by Wendy Brecken. Oh, wait a minute. That's what just happened. Okay, it will begin with Wendy Brecken, then Sean McMahon, and then Roy Stockton. Okay, the best laid plans. The issue is homelessness and food insecurity. And there are vital areas of need in Vacaville. And how would you address, as a council person, these difficult issues? And we begin with Wendy Brecken, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
So homelessness, this was a problem before COVID-19, and it's only bound to get worse because we have so many people who've lost jobs and we have businesses that aren't doing very well. So there's also going to be, and I don't know if this moratorium on evictions and foreclosures has ended or not, but when that ends, that could be another root cause of more homelessness. There's also a lack of affordable housing. So some good things that have happened in Vacaville is that the police department has a crew program and they have a social worker, and they go out to all the places where the homeless are, in the creeks and under the freeways and wherever they are, and helps find them shelter, helps connect them to resources. And most of the homeless are longtime Vacavillians. In addition, we have churches helping out. There's a homeless roundtable, which is sort of where they all get together, the police crew, the council members, church, and try to strategize weekly on how to deal with things. Opportunity House is a clean and sober environment, so it can't take federal funds right now. It's only half funded, so it can only take single women and families. And there was federal funding. There still is federal funding available that could fund that further, so we can have maybe men there as well. They're only at half capacity. In addition, there's Housing First projects, Project Room Key and Shelter Solano, where they first house people and then connect them to resources. Tiny sheds didn't work for Vacaville. A group home is maybe a possibility because we haven't even dealt with the homeless that we have. It's a constant battle. The city tried doing a 2x2, which is 2 council people and 2 county people to work it through. That didn't work. So perhaps the mayor will have a task force. He had talked about that. So we look at what others have done. We look at best practices. As far as, oh, my time's up. Oh my God.
Thank you. It goes fast. So it will be Sean McMahon who speaks next. And do you need me to repeat the question?
No, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. I'm extremely proud of the work that's already been done. You know, we're a town of roughly 100,000 people. Our community resource unit run through the Vacaville Police Department. You know, at any one time, we're roughly under 100 homeless people that are counted in Vacaville. I'm not saying there's not work to be done. There's absolutely a lot of work to be done, but I'm extremely proud of what's already been done here in Vacaville with limited resources. However, we can absolutely still do more. We must strengthen our relationship with our county supervisors. This has to be a collaborative effort between the county and the city and our citizens. All stakeholders must come to the table and the process must be transparent. Together, we can address the ongoing homelessness issues of Vacaville. Positive solutions are needed to assist our citizens in need. We must support these citizens in a way that does not put our children, our families, our schools at risk. So we need to consider all stakeholders when addressing homelessness. Everyone's situation is different. There are people that have chosen that lifestyle. There are people that may unfortunately be homeless because of COVID. There are people that have drug addiction or alcohol addiction problems. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Every person's situation is different, and we need to consider that when offering help or assistance. We need to ensure that we get the proper assistance to those people that need it. We do a great job with our Opportunity House and our faith-based organizations. I would like to see a navigation center, a first step, where people can go, whether it's a cooling center, a heating center, perhaps a shower, just ensure that people have their dignity, and let's get them on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you. Our third question is going to address the issue of racism, policing,
I still
and
have to go.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm glad that you are keeping track. Mr. Roy Stockton, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Well, I have had the opportunity to work with the homeless for about 15 years in my role as a law enforcement officer in the city of Fairfield and throughout Solano County. Before I was recently promoted, I was our environmental crimes detective, and unfortunately, in that role, the greatest contributor to the destruction of our creeks and wildlife areas were homelessness, and in the time that I was there, which is sad. So what I propose is that that we work with what we know is working. The Opportunity House has done an absolutely phenomenal job, not just bringing in people that need help, but providing them with the life skills that they need to continue to be successful in the future. The housing first models with the tough sheds that were first going to be on Brown Street and then later behind North Village where I live, the concerns that I had were that they were going to place these sheds or these housing first models next to growing neighborhoods with families and kids. That's a terrible idea, and I'm against that completely. But that's not to say that you couldn't put something like that in a different area away from businesses and from growing communities, and have it still be successful and provide the services. I think we need to be compassionate, but also have a sense of accountability, because unfortunately there are so many resources out there, but the homeless community is reluctant or refuses to take advantage of them. So I would invest in the Opportunity House. I think that the storehouse is great. I think the community driven solutions that aren't necessarily sponsored completely by the city of Vacaville have been the most successful. And so we need to believe in our community to come together and find their own solutions that are going to solve this issue. This is not going away.
Thank you. And again, my apologies. And if
That's okay.
I step on anyone else's toes, please speak up. Okay, I've already given the heads up that the next topic is no less controversial, and that is racism, policing, and diversity in the community of Vacaville. Racial equity in law enforcement has become a concern across the country. Do you feel that this is an issue in Vacaville? If so, how would you address it? How would you work to bring diverse groups together to build a more united Vacaville? And we will begin with Sean McMahon.
Thank you, Sean McMahon, District 1. Unfortunately, racism does exist in this nation, and it does exist in Vacaville. That's just the facts. We have all seen it on the news. We've seen it here in our own town. It is time for action. It is absolutely time for action. We have heard the voices, and we have to address that. We are better than that here in Vacaville, and we have to address that. With all of that said, with policing, I will say this: the law requires compliance by all citizens, all of us. It requires compliance with our police officers. Nobody is above the law. Nobody is below the law. So it's time for everyone to meet in the middle and to come up with positive solutions on how we move forward. Perhaps that may require bringing in an independent auditor to audit our department to see if we do have discrepancies in our police department. I support that. I want to eliminate racism in our town. But again, I think it takes everybody to do that, all sides. I think it's time to come to the table to bring our community leaders, as well as our elected officials, our police department, their families, come to the table. Let's talk. Let's come up with programs that work for everybody. Nobody should feel unsafe in this town, regardless of your gender, your color, your race, your religion. Everyone should feel safe in Vacaville. And together we can build a united Vacaville. We are one Vacaville. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next responder will be Mr. Roy Stockton. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. Racial equity in law enforcement has become a concern across the country. Do you feel this is an issue in Vacaville? If so, how would you address it? How would you work to bring diverse groups together to build a more united Vacaville? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So racism is absolutely an issue in every community throughout the country right now. I think that there's a lack of public trust between the African-American community and communities of color with our police. And I think it's something that all good police departments are striving to fix. I think one of the things that is important to me is that we involve the community, that we listen to the community at the beginning. So I know that there's been calls for citizen oversight when it comes to our police department, and I think that's kind of looking at it the wrong way. I don't want bad cops to work for the Vacaville Police Department, and I think a way to do that is to include citizens and people from the diverse group of our community to be involved at the beginning. So I personally think that as a leader in this community, you need to step up and publicly denounce acts of hate immediately and unequivocally. If we ever want to have an equitable society, we must acknowledge that there are inequities in our country and in our state, in our county, and in our community at the beginning, and then stand up and try to help everyone get to a point where there's an equality of outcome. So I personally am honored that I'm endorsed by our police and fire department here in town, but also by great leaders in the African-American community like Jonathan George, who does a lot of work with the Black Chamber of Commerce and the Tri-City NAACP. We need to have leaders that are willing to have uncomfortable conversations about the status of our city if we want to move forward. And there's a lot of divisiveness in society right now, whether it's political parties. It's just like, it's not about left, it's not about right, it's about moving forward. And the only way you can move forward is if we're together. And so investing in our community and denouncing this stuff has to be a priority.
Thank you. And Wendy Brecken will have her opportunity to answer the question. Do you need me to repeat it?
I don't think so. No, thanks. I mean, I agree that everyone has biases and they have experiences, and that shapes how they feel. But I personally have not experienced any racism. However, I'm white. I hear at the council meetings and at the especially at the council meetings that there have been a number of incidents. But I've talked to other people in, as I walk door to door, and people of color have not ever experienced it. So yeah, whether there's a few bad apples at the police department here or not, I'm not sure, because I tend to, the way I look at things because of my background is, where there's smoke, maybe there's fire, but we need, as somebody else said, maybe some independent, either third-party consultant or some maybe task force to take a look at the complaints and hear from both sides and decide what is going on. I mean, there's probably, my guess is, things happening on both sides as far as, well, let's just say that there can be more that can be done on both sides. I think a mediator would be helpful. I agree that Vacaville is one community. We all should be supporting one another. Everybody needs to feel safe in their neighborhoods. As far as the town hall meeting that Chief Carley did was a great idea. He explained all the programs in the police department, and he talked about how there's body cams, and they've had them for 10 years here so that everything will be seen. There's community policing, there's training programs. I'm not sure about ethics and, bias, implicit bias training. I assume there's some of that going on, but, maybe there could be more training, and maybe
your time is up.
Thank you.
Okay. We don't want to have any easy questions tonight. That would, no softball stuff here. So the next question involves the economic challenges facing Vacaville. And the order of answering the question will be Roy Stockton, Wendy Brecken, and Sean McMahon. What is your vision for the economic growth of the city of Vacaville? What factors need to be considered to improve the economic vitality of the city? And we will begin with Roy Stockton.
Okay. Well, I think that certainly these are tough, difficult times with the impacts of COVID-19 on our local economy. I think that we absolutely, the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we are seeking any resources from the federal government and the state that they have to offer for us to assist business owners in our community. We need to make sure that we keep our local businesses that are here, that have been here, that have invested in our community, that have sponsored our kids' Little League teams, that have just taken care of our community, that they stay here. We got to keep them from dying because they help keep us together. I say that a lot because I mean it. But we also do need to look into the future. We have a tremendous, tremendous opportunity with biotech manufacturing here in Vacaville, being the #2 biotech area in the entire world. If we can expand upon that, I think that we have a tremendous opportunity to get through this and be better off in the end. Nobody likes what happened with COVID, certainly, but but I think that we can get through it. We need to really push to open things back up safely right now, not a moment later. My wife and I recently tried to put together a fundraiser for the fire victims, and we're working with a local business trying to rally the community to support that business, but to raise funds. And it was sadly, it was shut down by the county because of COVID restrictions, simply due to the fact that it was an event. And the business is open. It meets all the qualifications and precautions for COVID, but simply because it was an event, it was shut down. So as a community, if we're prevented from being able to rally community sources to help these businesses, how are we going to possibly help keep them from going away? So I think we need to push to open up safely. We need to work with our businesses and get things back open.
Thank you. And the question now goes to Wendy Brecken. Do you need me to repeat the question? Okay. What is your vision for the economic growth of the city of Vacaville? What factors need to be considered to improve the economic vitality of the city? You have 2 minutes.
So, especially with COVID, the economic vitality of our city has decreased. We need to support existing small businesses and help them through these hard times through creative means as well as financially with federal state monies. We are a bedroom community, essentially. 50% of us commute out of the city, and it would be just wonderful if we can have our economic vitality improve, for example, through the biotech hub, where we're encouraging the big biotech businesses to maybe manufacture medication or what have you. So we have the Solano County College program with the Bachelor of Science program, and we could just walk them right into jobs here. One of the things that's keeping businesses from coming here is red tape, and we could pre-zone areas so that they don't have to get a planning permit and maybe just have to get a building permit, and look for other ways to cut tape. For example, looking for, fees, other ways of innovating. There also, affordable housing is an issue for workers to come here. We need to have affordable housing, and the high taxes in the new development is also an issue that's just beginning to be discussed. So we have workforce development. We need to prep our students for jobs here, and we have to invest in infrastructure, meaning revitalize downtown and the biotech hub, and just in general be friendly to business so that we can have good paying jobs here and keep our people here and not having to have them commute. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sean McMahon, you have the floor. Do you need me to repeat the question?
I'm sorry, Leslie, if you would repeat the question, please, ma'am.
I will.
Thank you.
What is your vision for the economic growth of the city of Vacaville? What factors need to be considered to improve the economic vitality of the city?
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We've all said it. It's biotech, biomanufacturing, and other large corporations we need to invite and attract to Vacaville. When I say this, they're not jobs. I want careers in Vacaville. I want high-paying careers that offer benefits and pensions for our citizens of Vacaville. What that does is keep our citizens here. They no longer have to commute to the Bay Area or Sacramento. It keeps that money here in Vacaville, whether it's a lunch crowd, a dinner crowd, a happy hour crowd, a shopping crowd. It keeps that money here in Vacaville. Extremely important. I will also say this. The Vacaville Chamber of Commerce endorsed one candidate for District 1. That's Sean McMahon, because of my commitment to business and especially small business here in Vacaville. Vacaville business is made up of 95% small business in Vacaville. Very important that we shop local, we dine local. These businesses are barely surviving right now. It is up to us. As Mr. Stockton said, these are businesses that have sponsored sport teams and Little League soccer teams for several years. We owe it to them. They will not survive without us. We have to continue to support them. We have to continue to order takeout. We have to continue to shop with them. Let's build a strong economy to ensure Vacaville remains fiscally sound. We have to keep that money flowing in order to just ensure that we remain fiscally sound here in Vacaville. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Something I was not aware of, but I've just been notified that according to the league rules, the mention of individual endorsements is not permitted during this forum. So henceforth, we'll rein that in. Okay. We're going to move from the larger economy to the more specific city budget. And I'm going to have two questions on the city budget, since anyone elected to the council is going to have great oversight and power of what actually appears in the budget, what's added, what's subtracted. The question is, considering so many community needs but finite resources, what would be your top budget priorities? And we will begin with Wendy Brecken, followed by Sean McMahon, and then Roy Stockton. So Wendy, you have 2 minutes.
Top budget priorities would be looking at basically dealing with the budget. Right now, Measure M funds will be used for the reserve within 5 years. We're deficit spending. So right now, even though there's a $40 million rainy day fund, it looks good. We've got COVID happening, but we're also deficit spending. So that means that we're using up general funds slowly in the next 5 years, so we won't have a reserve. So we'll be using Measure M funds for that purpose. That means we won't have the money for projects. So however many good projects we can think of, and repeatedly, even now, people are coming before city council and asking for a revitalization of downtown. They're asking for money for homelessness projects. They're asking for money for infrastructure, what have you, parks. And the answer is usually no. And in fact, the projects, the complex projects that are Measure M projects are being deferred, meaning the sports complex, the Three Oaks, they're supposed to tear it down and build it up, and the McBride Center, they're supposed to remodel that, and that's all been deferred. So we really need to look at cutting costs. We need to look at revenue. We need to look at cutting costs. And that would be my priority, is having some kind of a task force, for example, or a third-party consultant who's an expert working with municipalities to take a look at this issue, or an advisory committee. We need community input into our budget priorities, and that has not been happening. So far, we have strategy meet. The city meets in a strategy meeting about what the strategic priorities will be, and it's in a little conference room, and it just has employees and maybe me and another citizen there to listen. So we need the community to give their input on what the priorities should be.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person to address this is Sean McMahon. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Considering so many community needs but finite resources, what would be your top budget priorities?
Thank you for that, Leslie. And that's not an easy question to answer. It's extremely difficult. And I believe, just like Ms. Brecken just had mentioned, that's up to the citizens. Citizen Advisory Committee, I am all for that. We, if elected, you get to be the voice of that district and for the citizens of Vacaville. These are their tax dollars. We determine and vote on where they go, but we need to take all input from our citizens, from the community, and see where they want that money to go. I agree. We cannot continue to deficit spend. If we don't have the money, it's simple. We have to restructure or I just don't like using this word, there may be cuts required. Those are tough decisions that are, I think, unfortunately coming. And a lot of this is due to COVID. We have lost millions of dollars in revenue over the past several months, and we have to make that up somewhere. We're gonna have to get creative. We're gonna have to rely upon our city staff. Our city staff does an amazing job. They are the experts there. They give us the information that we need in order to make those decisions. I will also agree, bringing in a third party, an outside group to assist with that. I am all for that. Whatever we can do to make it better for our citizens, absolutely. I will look for ways to increase revenues. We have to think outside the box. We've been through this with the recession. We are here again. We have to look at different ways to perhaps increase our revenues. And I've got some ideas for that. Renting facilities and other things. We absolutely have to think outside of the box during this time. COVID is here. The effects, we haven't seen the full effects of COVID yet. We are going to, unfortunately, it's going to take months, if not years, to recover from COVID. So we have to make wise decisions now.
Thank you. And our final speaker on this issue will be Roy Stockton. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I think I got it. So I think we are very well likely to have some very difficult decisions before us for the folks that are elected in this election. I think that the people are the most important, and we talk a lot. I hear a lot of talk about like deficit spending, and yes, if you look at the general fund, we are deficit spending, but some of the positions that are paid for in the general fund that Measure M is coming from actually were part of that Measure M. And so the addition of the police officers and firefighters that contribute to that, I understand some of that money going toward that goal. So I think we have reserves for a reason. We need to absolutely maximize the effect of what we can use those funds for to keep our city services, to make sure that we're supporting our business community in town, and that we keep our community moving forward. So it is going to take a lot of innovation. Whether or not the worst of COVID is yet to come does not change the importance that we need to find safe ways to open. We cannot let the businesses stay closed and the employees not working any longer, or they will be gone forever. Legacy businesses that I grew up with will not be here anymore if we just make people sit at home. And put them in that impossible position where they're choosing whether or not to break the law to feed their family or follow the law and sit at home and do without. We can't have that. And so I think we need to be innovative. I think we need to listen to our community, be accountable to our constituents, available to our constituents to determine the things that are most important to them. And part of that is by having maybe some citizen committees that come together and help us make some of those decisions. That's okay as well. But every city staff member is a person with a family, and we need to try to maintain our city staff at all costs.
Thank you. And some of you have already alluded to the issue that's in the next budget related question, and you can expand upon your answer or focus on the second part of the question. And the order of answering the question will be Sean McMahon, Roy Stockton, and Wendy Brecken. Two factors further complicate future decisions. Please address the potential shortfall due to lost revenues and increased costs related to the pandemic. Please also address the unfunded employee pension obligation. And we will begin with Sean McMahon. You have 2 minutes to solve the budget.
I absolutely apologize. You broke up there a bit on me. Can you repeat that one more time, Leslie? I apologize.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Two factors further complicate future budget decisions. Please address the potential budget shortfall due to lost revenues and increased costs related to the pandemic. Please also address the unfunded employee pension obligation.
Well, thank you for that. And I think we have addressed it a few times. The loss of revenue. It is a factor, and unfortunately, I just don't think that we've seen the full effects of that yet. And I'm going to say it again. There are tough decisions to be made in the future for this next council. We will have to look at all options. Will be on the table. If it's restructuring to operate more efficiently, then that's what we have to do. And again, I don't want to cut anybody. I absolutely don't. Like Mr. Stock said, there are families out there that rely upon that, and we're not looking to do that. But again, these are difficult decisions that this next council is going to have to face. It is the reality of it. Talking about unfunded liabilities, which seems to be a big topic. It's an issue. Here is where I stand on that. A promise made is a promise kept. If you have earned that benefit, then we have to do our absolutely best to honor that. Moving forward, we have to change. And we have changed. We have made changes in the right direction. There is a benefit trust that is currently got $40 million or so in it. It has decreased that medical benefit, but moving forward, more has to be done. We have to continue that effort, and that program is going to have to change. There are a lot of different programs out there that can be offered that are very competitive. We have to be competitive to keep the best employees here in Vacaville. So I am all for looking at those. I think we have to work with our labor groups, and we have to come to a common agreement, and we have to do it in the best interest of Vacaville and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next person to respond to the question is Roy Stockton. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 2 factors further complicate future budget decisions. Please address the potential budget shortfall due to lost revenues and increased costs related to the pandemic. Please also address the unfunded employee pension obligation.
Okay, so the reserves are reserves for a reason. We need to maximize the effect of the reserves that we currently have. $40 million. Hopefully we can push that long enough to where we can see some sort of economic recovery. Only time will tell. The unfunded pensions, those aren't all going to happen overnight. We're current on making our payments to address the pensions that we owe our city staff members when they retire, and we're current on that. There's a trust that has been set up that has raised, I believe it's around $30 million toward the $78 million in unfunded liability as a result of their medical benefits at retirement. And so we are doing things to be responsible to try to fix something that started in the mid to late 70s. So I think we need to continue those things, but we also need to continue to work with our labor bargaining groups. I mean, we just recently got a 3rd tier of PEPRA employees to help with this pension problem that everyone has seen coming. Unfortunately, these folks in this 3rd tier are going to work longer, pay more, and get less in the end. That's the reality of it. But the folks that are signing up to do these jobs are aware of that when they sign up now. And so we're keeping our commitment to the people that are in the other 2 tiers while also honoring the new agreement with any future employees. Which leads me to the next thing. I don't want to lay people off. I cringe at the thought of folks that serve our community are going to be homeless or displaced. I think that we need to, through natural attrition, we may not fill some spots that naturally occur through retirements and whatnot. But we must be really careful because we want to recruit and retain the very best city staff members as possible because they contribute to the quality of life that we enjoy in Vacaville.
Thank you. And Wendy Brecken will be next up to answer the question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so the discussion is about lost revenue due to the pandemic. And as Sean McManus said, we don't know the result of that. The director of finance has said that he's pretty optimistic about COVID. He thinks that we're doing pretty good budget-wise. Retail is not as significant as a component of the budget as other areas. We're getting good revenue in on property taxes, for example. So I really don't think right now COVID is an issue for the budget. It may be, especially if we lose more businesses. The unfunded pension was the question. And I think there's been some confusion because pension means pension. It doesn't mean retiree healthcare costs. So there's two different unfunded liabilities. There's retiree healthcare, and that has an 80 million unfunded liability, or 78 maybe now. And then there's pensions. And pensions has to do with the safety pension, and that is only 63% funded. So we have 63 cents on the dollar owed to people in safety retirement. That is not good. That is not good. Some economists say that when it goes down to 60%, it's a point of no return. So that's not good. Miscellaneous employees is better, it's at 68%, but we also have what's called PARS, which is a supplemental pension that some of these employees have, and it's only 34% funded. I mean, not good. So what we've chosen to do as a city is shore up retiree healthcare costs, which are not required under the law. We stuck $40 million into a retiree healthcare trust that's irrevocable. We can't get it back. Only could spend it on that. Yet we have no money to fund pensions. So I'm not sure why we're not shoring up pensions, because I don't want to go bankrupt. I don't think the city should go bankrupt. I think what we should do is shore up pensions and do alternate realities or reasonable alternatives for healthcare. Thank you.
Your time is up. Okay, you guys survived. And so I'm going to kind of throw you some easy ones at the end. And I think I'm only going to give you a minute for this next question. And the order of answering it will be Roy Stockton, Wendy Brecken, and Sean McMahon. Cannabis dispensaries are a potential but controversial revenue source. What are your views on the sale and cultivation of cannabis within Vacaville city limits? And in your answer, please state your position on Vacaville's ballot measure V, the proposed general tax on cannabis and hemp businesses. And we will begin with Roy Stockton. 1 minute.
All right, thank you. So I support Measure V. I believe that if we are going to sell recreational marijuana, that it should be taxed just like cigarettes, alcohol, and the other things that people recreationally use, hopefully responsibly. As it relates to the cultivation and sales of within city limits, I support the not having the stores right now. I'm on the fence. I think I could be convinced about indoor cultivation as long as there are safety precautions put in place that keep surrounding businesses and communities safe. But as somebody with a law enforcement background, I see the problem with the money that is the cash money that is associated with the marijuana business, not necessarily the use of it, which, there are medicinal uses and people that use marijuana for a variety of different things outside of just recreationally. So for me, I am for Measure V, tax it, but not for the storefronts.
Thank you. And the next person to respond is Wendy Brecken. Do you need me to restate the question?
No, thank you. So Measure V is basically, do we as a community want to accept the tax dollars from other outside businesses, out-of-town businesses delivering medicinal marijuana and recreational marijuana here in town? And by all means, yes, let's collect the money. It's already happening. We need revenue. The second part of that is that once we have the ability to tax that, we currently have a moratorium on any kind of businesses or growing of marijuana. And so the city council has to look at, do we want to maybe just allow medicinal marijuana, agricultural, do we want to first study it, look at the impacts and what's happened in other communities? Has it increased crime? What can we do to mitigate those impacts?
Okay, your time is up. Thank you. And Sean McMahon, you're up. Do you need me to restate the question?
No, thank you, Leslie. I've got it. Thank you. I as well, I support Measure V. I say yes. The way I understand it, it doesn't increase the cost or the tax. It just simply allocates that tax money back to Vacaville. So currently cannabis is being delivered into Vacaville from other cities just adjacent to us. The next city over, they're delivering it into our city. We just don't get to collect the tax on it. So I'm all for Measure V. It is estimated that Measure V will generate anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 a year, which goes into our general fund. We've all spoke about ways to generate revenue. This is a way to do it. I am all for it. As far as the storefronts, I don't know. I'm not opposed to that. What I am for is, and I think it fits right in with Vacaville, is the testing portion of cannabis, the laboratory part of it. There's a need for it, and it fits right into Vacaville's economy.
Thank you. Okay, the next question was actually asked at a prior forum for a different district by an audience viewer. And so I've incorporated it tonight for you. This is also a 1-minute question. And we will begin with Wendy Brecken and then Sean McMahon and Roy Stockton. During the national pandemic, the education of children has become a challenge. Though local education decisions are not the purview of the city, do you see ways the city can collaborate with Vacaville and Travis school districts? And we will begin with Wendy Brecken, and you have 1 minute.
So I think that the city can do a lot to collaborate with school districts. There used to be a 2x2, meaning 2 city council members and 2 school board members in each district that would get together and talk about issues. And that would be, I mean, obviously there's a lot of issues that intersect with the city's jurisdiction and the school board's jurisdiction, everything from building new homes and whether there's enough, room in the local schools to do that, to now that we have COVID, how do we support schools? TGIF would be one area that it could be supported. We can have recreational department maybe doing activities or after school homework with kids. The teachers are having a difficult time teaching. The parents are having a difficult time teaching with COVID. It's really a crisis time. And I think we all need to enter this forum together and try to figure out what we can do to help.
Thank you. And we will conclude on that question with Roy Stockton.
Oh, you skipped me, Leslie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's why Roy looked surprised. Okay, we will have the next person respond, and that is Sean McMahon.
Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate it. This, again, COVID has really thrown a wrench into everything for us. Let me say, my wife is an educator. I listen to her on a Zoom call every morning before I go to work. Our teachers have done an amazing job in an incredibly difficult situation. Our teachers have, our parents have, and our students have. I have 2 young girls that recently started high school via Zoom. They would much rather be in school. Just like it's time to open our businesses, I think it is time to safely get our kids back in school. There are a lot of reasons for that, mentally, physically, and socially. It is affecting every one of us differently. Our young people need that interaction. I will also say this, I agree, TGIF, I know that the Parks and Recreation Department just recently put out PE in the park. There is a partnership there with the school district, and it's going to take all of us to get through this. If this is the way we're going to continue on, we need to partner and keep moving forward.
Thank you. And now we will hear from Mr. Roy Stockton.
Yes, ma'am. So I think that we could work with the school district when we negotiate with developers, certainly, to try to get schools on this side of town so that we don't have to drive our kids to school at other places that are much farther. The other thing that I think we could do to support the schools is we talk a lot about celebrating our diversity here. We sign proclamations and we do some things like that, but we actually don't really have anything other than Fiesta Days. So, in February when we have when we celebrate Martin Luther King Day, why don't we have something where we can nominate a student or from the African-American community to read the I Have a Dream speech? I mean, we can get really creative with ideas of way that we can work with the schools and try to celebrate the diversity that we have here. I agree that we also need to safely open up our schools, but I think that if we are worried about COVID and there are people that have immunocompromised family members at home, we've seen from the teachers that they're able to adapt and still continue to provide the Zoom services as well. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities for us to work with the school district to help the citizens.
Thank you. And we have some time, and there have been no questions submitted from the YouTube audience. And so I'm going to give you each an opportunity to tell me what question you wish you had been asked, and then give your answer. And I'll give you 2 minutes. And we will begin with Sean McMahon, then Roy Stockton, and then Wendy Brecken.
Thank you, Leslie. That's a great question and kind of put on the spot to go first. So I'm going to give it a shot here. One of the things that I'm extremely proud of, and I'm extremely proud of my family, is our community service to this town. We have been extremely involved through youth sports, through the Parks and Recreation Department, through community cleanup days with different organizations. I currently serve as a senior vice commander for our Veterans of Foreign War. We ensure that our veterans' needs are taken care of, as well as basically the community. That's what the VFW does. So yeah, I would appreciate a question about community service because I think it's important. Community service absolutely builds a stronger community. There's a sense of pride in your community when you have actually went out there and cleaned up that park. There's a sense of pride in that. There's a sense of pride in maybe cleaning graffiti that's out there. So yeah, again, I just appreciate community service. I admire people that volunteer their time, and I'm extremely proud of this town because it is extremely giving and caring, and we all witnessed that during the last disaster we had with the fire. Community members came out of the woodwork to offer a hand and a hug to their brothers and their sisters and their friends and their neighbors. So it's, in the worst of times, it brings out the best of people. And that happened here recently. And I would sure like to continue that moving forward. We are a great town. And it has great people in this town, and I'm extremely proud of the citizens of Vacaville. So thank you. Thank you.
And Roy Stockton.
So I had 2 minutes, and I'm still spinning because there's a lot of different important things that we could talk about. Some of the questions that I like, why are you running, and what are you passionate about, or what drove you to do it? Because this is not for the faint of heart. Running a political campaign, even at a local level, is extremely time consuming. It takes a tremendous commitment. Most of us that have made this decision have done so at the with our families, the effect that it's had on our families and our kids and our jobs if we're still working too. It takes a tremendous amount of commitment to do something like this. And so knowing the why is kind of a super important thing. I believe that we need to protect the quality of life in Vacaville. I think that there are a lot of things that contribute to this Vaca strong mentality that we seem to have, this passion that no matter what the world throws at us, we can overcome it. We can bring people together. We can find solutions to pretty much anything that our community is facing, whether it's wildfires, COVID-19, civil unrest, or racism. I think that we have a tremendous opportunity during this election to appoint people that are accountable for a certain geographical area. I would like to see that expanded. I'd like to see our parks and rec commissioners, our all the different commissioners, all the committees, all have someone that is represented from each district. I think that it builds public trust. I think that it gives, I think it'll give the council members that are responsible for the different areas the ability to make sure the projects that are important to their district don't slip into the cracks and get forgotten about. There was supposed to be a school in North Village when I bought my home. I don't know what happened to that or why it was terminated, but if we do some of these things, we can really build that public trust and continue to have transparent solutions that are community driven.
Thank you. And Wendy Brecken, you get to ask your own question and provide your own answer.
Why I'm running is a great question. Thank you, Roy. So I'm running mainly because I wasn't listened to on the city council. I had some questions about the tower over there on behind me. It was an emergency radio tower, and I didn't understand why they were building a big building and a big tower there, and I wasn't really getting solid answers, the kind of answers that I'm used to when I worked at, for example, US EPA or Cal EPA, and had to do CEQA analysis, which is environmental analysis. I wasn't seeing the analysis. I wasn't hearing the good answers. And so then we started looking at other neighborhoods were also angry over similar issues. And we started getting together and looking at the budget and other things. We need a more open government. There needs to be a structural open government so that we all, there's community input, like through advisory committees for the budget or advisory committees for planning, so that there's no surprises to the community. They will be notified about projects that are happening. They will have input. Their concerns for traffic and other issues will be mitigated. And water pressure. I've talked to a number of people at Orchard right now that because of the new homes being built at Farmstead development, they don't have water pressure like upstairs at all. And those, you know, that's been a need for a long time. We need a priority list that anybody can go to look at and see, oh yes, the water tower over at Orchard is going to be built and it will happen in 2 years. And the detention basins that are needed for flooding for the 100-year floods, they will be built and we'll know how many years. And all the projects for parks and school, you know, not schools, but parks and sports fields and other things, there will be a list. We will know when they will be built. It will be planned out. And I don't see that now. I've been asking lots of questions, don't see it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I got everyone, right? Okay. We're moving into the last part of our forum, and that is your closing statements. And the sense I got from the questions that you asked yourselves is that, you know, there was a lot of pitch in those questions. And because we're short on time, does anyone object to my reducing the statement time to 2 minutes? Seeing no objections, we're going to reverse the order in which the opening statements were given. And so we will begin with Roy Stockton, followed by Sean McMahon, and then ending with Wendy Brecken. And that will actually conclude our forum for the candidates. I'm hoping that in your concluding statements, you will give some form of contact information by which people who are interested in finding out more about your campaign or you can contact you. So we will begin 2 minutes for Roy Stockton.
Okay. I want to look at everybody so that you know that I'm not reading. I am passionate about Vacaville. I care about this community. It raised me. The people here, the business owners, the folks that invested in our community, sponsored those little league teams. They are direct contributors to me being here today. The veterans that gave me the opportunity to learn and develop a love for our country and a desire to serve. I'm here because of you. I serve my community as a sergeant with the Solano County Sheriff's Office, but I am compassionate and understanding about the desire to always want to do better and represent all of the people within our community. We must stay VACA strong. we must address the issues that we need to talk about, even if they're uncomfortable. We need to build public trust, whether it's by having conversations about policing in the African-American community, or whether or not it's about homelessness and being able to find community-driven solutions that don't sacrifice our safety. We have a tremendous opportunity to improve the quality of life in Vacaville that we deserve to have here, and that we, for the most part, we really enjoy here. This is a great community. Yes, there's issues. Yes, we're worried about COVID-19, but I believe that if we stick together, if we focus on what's important and we see the people behind the dollar signs, that we'll always do the right thing. My family decided after I got out of college that we were going to settle here in Vacaville. We came here because my grandmother lived here, and I look back at the powerful women in my life that got me here. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters for giving us this opportunity to address these very important issues in our community, to speak to people about why we believe we're the best person for this very, very important job, because we are very different. We're all good people. I will say, Sean McMahon, Wendy, you're good people. And so am I. Our heart is always in the right place. So we're a little different. Figure out who we are. And you can do that by going to our website. My website is roystockton.com. There's information about me and my platform there, but you're also free to call me on the phone, 707-689-7405. Let's have real conversations for Vacaville.
Thank you. And we now will go to Sean McMahon, and don't forget to include your contact info.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you for putting this on tonight. It's been an honor. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank the other candidates. As alluded to earlier, this is not easy. It is not easy. You put yourself out there and your family out there. So I appreciate anybody that has a desire to serve in this capacity. Thank you, Mr. Stockton, Ms. Brecken, and also Mr. Brock. Thank you very much. My 27 years of experience in the Air Force, as well as my service as a park commissioner, has given me a broad perspective and understanding of our community and allowed me to build strong relationships with our citizens as well as our city staff. I believe that the strongest of communities are anchored in a spirit of collaboration. I have the leadership skills and the experience needed to start on the Vacaville City Council from day one. I have had the honor and the privilege of sitting on the dais as a commissioner for 4 years. I am ready to start on day one. I fully understand the challenges ahead, and I don't have a problem making those tough decisions. I'm running for Vacaville City Council because I'm passionate about Vacaville and the people who make it livable. I have a vision, and my vision is that my girls want to raise their girls here in Vacaville. That is my vision. Increasing the quality of life for every Vacaville citizen during my tenure as a council member for District 1. Well, I will speak for the voice of District 1. I will continue to serve all of Vacaville. All of Vacaville. We will be voting on several different projects that affect all of Vacaville. Extremely important. I have nothing to gain professionally by this. This is strictly about service. This is strictly about service and my passion for the city of Vacaville and its citizens. I strongly believe that a strong community is a place for opportunity. Please visit www.seanmcmahonforvacaville.com. You can reach me at 707-290-4467. I would be honored to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll finish up the closing statements with Wendy Brecken.
Wendy Brecken, running for District 1. I'm the only woman running. And I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity to have us all talk about why we're running and what our views are, and thank Roy as well as Sean McMahon. And basically, I want to build communities. I want to, our neighborhood should be communities, and it's really working well in the older neighborhoods. And the newer neighborhoods, it's been more like building housing tracts, and we really need to catch up with the infrastructure. We need to have the walking paths, the parks, the schools nearby. People are suffering from it. There's insufficient, sports fields. They need to go out of town to play sports. So it's a nonpartisan position. I'm supported from people from both sides, from Democrats, from Republicans, from independents. I have the support of former and current council members, as well as former city manager and other commissioners. People see that there needs to be a change. We need to not be wedded to special interests. We need to not be thinking about giving favors to people of any kind. I feel like what we need to be doing is just taking a look at the facts, just look to see what is the best thing for Vacaville. How can we get back on track with our budget so that we are a pretty wealthy community, actually. We have good revenue coming in. So we just need to do some little tweaking and figure out how to get us back on track. I've been shouting for years about the structural deficit, and I think it's fixable. There's some easy solutions, and it's without significant harm or impact to the employees. I agree, we need to retain employees. They're what's keeping Vacaville going. They're the responders.
Okay, if you can conclude and give your contact information.
Okay, www.wendybrecken.com, and my phone number is 707-416-1719. I've been talking to people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I want to thank all the candidates tonight. You were very patient with all of my little hiccups in terms of order of speaking, and I appreciate your going with the flow. So I'm going to turn the program over to Julie Hartford, and she will give the concluding remarks for the League of Women Voters of Solano County.
Thank you, Leslie. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Solano County, I would like to thank the candidates for taking the time to be here this evening. We would encourage you in the audience to reach out to the candidates if you do have more questions. Running for office is difficult, and I admire anyone who would be willing to run and who would be willing to serve their community by being an elected official. We appreciate your gracious donation of your time this evening. You've come here to inform the electorate, and we do believe in the League that this is a very, very important thing you are doing. Thank you to the audience and the League members who have submitted questions for this forum. We do apologize. We had a question come in during the closing statements that we won't be able to address, but you have all given contact information, and I hope that you do get contacted. Also, I would like to apologize to the moderator and the candidates. In the rules, it did not state that you could not bring up endorsements, and I was unaware that that was a rule. So I take that as a lack of knowledge on my part, and I do apologize. A virtual event like this takes a lot of planning and a lot of people behind the scenes. I would like to thank Niles Metters, League of Women Voters President, Craig Patterson, Sandy Corey, Danielle Kreider, Gail Vaughn, Rami Muth, Sarah Chapman, our timer, Devonna Finley, our chat manager, and Leslie Batson, our moderator of this forum. I would like to remind our viewers that the recording of this forum will be posted on the League of Women Voters of Solano County's YouTube channel. Additionally, there will be a link on our website. Please visit our website and feel free to shoot us an email with any feedback on this forum that we might find useful for our future forums. The copyright for this forum belongs to the League of Women Voters of Solano County, which reserves all rights to the recording of this forum. No portion of the contents of this forum may be reproduced or otherwise used without prior written consent from the League of Women Voters. No portion of this recording may be used to promote one candidate or oppose another in any way. Additionally, no portion of this forum can be used to imply that the League of Women Voters endorses any candidate. If the recording of this forum is to be used, it must be used in its entirety. Thank you for watching and have a great evening.